Harold Cotton, who is the chief scout of the Boston Bruins, and Bob Davidson, chief scout for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Harold, I want you to clear something up for me that's been on my mind for quite a long time. I want you to clarify something. I have read over the last 2 or 3 years certain criticism, most of it, I dare say, coming from people who know very little about hockey or certainly have nothing to do with hockey, and that is the charge that people who sign boys to play hockey are possibly taking advantage of them. Now, I don't believe this for a minute, and if this is the case, I dare say there are thousands of boys across Canada who would love to be taken advantage of to the tune of $10,000 or $15,000 a year. But say I have a boy, 15 or 16 years old, and it's always been his desire to play for, well, in this case, we'll say Detroit Red Wings. If you happen to put that boy down on a form or whatever it is you assign them to, could you stop him from playing with the Detroit club?
Well, I don't think any National League scout has ever knowingly taken advantage of a boy as far as his going on in hockey is concerned, Jack. In the first place, we're not allowed to put a player on a form until he's 18 years of age. Now, before he's 18, he may voluntarily sign with a sponsored club. The National League teams have teams that they sponsor.
Strictly amateur clubs, though.
Amateur clubs. Mm-hmm. And if he signed with one of those sponsored clubs, naturally he would go, the Maple Leafs or the Bruins, whoever might be sponsoring the team, would have certain professional rights to that player. Professional rights, not amateur. But the boy would know when he was signing with that amateur team what he was up against, so naturally he must be satisfied to sign with it. Now, when it comes to signing boys, you always have to go and talk to the boy. You have to talk to the parents. I wouldn't say there was 1 out of 1,000 now that you don't talk to the parents. If he has parents or guardians, even, you might go to them. And naturally, they want to know the score. And we have to give them the whole business and let them know what the score is. But I can honestly say that I think most of our lads, I don't think they really do lean towards any one team as much as you think they do. I think they lean towards the National Hockey League, that's for sure. That's their ambition. And when the scout comes around and talks to them and he has something to proposition them with, for Boston, we'll say, he's quite happy that he's being thought of at all. And I think the same thing would hold good with the Leafs or any other team.
Well, that pretty well irons it out, Harold. Bob Davidson, what are the duties of a chief scout?
Well, first of all, we have to line up players for the National League club, but it usually starts down pretty low. We start off lining up players for our Junior B club, and they advance to our Junior A clubs, and then when they graduate from our Junior A clubs, they advance in the American League or the National Hockey League.
Well, I think things have changed in the last 20 years. I remember when I was a boy, scouts used to travel all over the country all winter long looking for hockey players. You have other scouts across the country, do you?
Well, I certainly have. I have bird dogs in practically every province in Canada, and I get calls from my scouts that they have a certain player on tab there, and I have to go out and more or less judge whether I think he's good enough to play hockey in one of our sponsored clubs.
What would you say would be your most interesting scouting chore lately? Have you taken any long trips or seen any fine players?
I'm not going to tell how.
This is the wrong place to ask a question like that, eh?
Well, I have been now. I've been right from coast to coast. I was out to Spokane, Washington, where I was looking at the Western Hockey League in Vancouver, and I was down to Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island this year, so I've had some extensive traveling.
That's one thing, Jack, that a scout really learns to do. That's to keep his mouth shut at all times. I'll tell you that.
Especially when you're together.
I bet you put him
Well,
up
it doesn't matter whether you're together, because you might tell somebody else who would tell David.
I can assure you I have nothing to do with that. Harold, what jurisdiction do you have over the final development of players? Once you get them into your organization, do you say anything to the coach of those boys? If you don't think he's getting a fair deal or enough ice time, do you go and talk to the coach?
Yes, you do. From the time that a boy starts with the organization, we'll say at 16 years of age, until he gets to the National League, if you're a National League scout, I would say, he is more or less your responsibility. He's your boy to start with. I mean, he's your, you've probably got him, or one of your men have got him for the outfit, and you take pride in seeing him become a success. And it is your job, and that's the big job of the Chief Scout today, is traveling around the country and keeping tab on all the players that are in your organization at the present time. And trying to iron out any difficulties they have. They'll call you in the summer and they're mad at the coach and all this kind of stuff, and they don't want to go back maybe to the team they were on, and you have to iron those difficulties out and try to keep everything going along smoothly in the whole organization.
Fine, Harold. Bob, when you meet a young lad and you want to sign into one of your clubs, do you have chief talking points? Do you set aside points that you use to convince a boy that he should go with your club?
Well, I have, I think. First of all, as you say, like we're starting on the boys pretty young, we usually talk to the families first, the mother and father, and explain what our setup here is in Toronto regarding the boys' schooling. That's usually the first thing the parents ask you, well, what about the schooling? Well, I think we have pretty good schooling here in Toronto. We have St. Michael's College, and we also have high schools here in Toronto that the boys would play for Malvers. And we set up boarding house for them, or at St. Mike's, we pay for the tuition and give them spending money. And also we try to keep tab on their schoolwork during the year, and if they're down in any subject, we will provide a tutor for them and help them out so that they can get their year. And as you know, Jack, we can't guarantee that boy's going to be a National League hockey player.
No.
So that we hope that he can get his education. If he develops to be a hockey player, fine. If he doesn't, well, he hasn't lost his education.
Just one last question from you, Rob. What players are you personally most proud of having scouted?
Well, I haven't scouted them all personally, but as I say, we have these fellows in Toronto and up in Timmins, like Mahovich, is Tony Del Monte, and we have Cliff Cooper, who got Carl Brewer, and we had Chris Topping, who got Bobby Pulford, and though I don't take credit for it, I just happen to have a good organization.
Mm-hmm. And Hal, I guess you're probably as proud of that old Barrie Club that produced so many fine players for the Bruins, because you had a great deal to do with that. You had Mons and Topazzini.
Well, in those days I was doing most of the scouting myself.
A lot more traveling than you're doing today.
And I was digging them up more personally, but not now so much.
Well, I'm sorry we haven't more time. This is a subject we could talk for hours on, but thank you very much for being with us. Our thanks to Harold Cotton and Bob Davidson for visiting with us tonight. And now in just a moment, we'll return to Bill and Foster Hewitt and the play-by-play.